I want to turn to our next story, which also involves law enforcement. We have an Illinois cop who was put on desk duty after releasing a video of a police murder. What happened in Illinois?
Yeah, so there's in Joliet, which is actually a suburb of Chicago where I'm based. It's just maybe like an hour out from Chicago. It may not actually be a suburb, but it's pretty close to Chicago. And his name is Javier Esqueda. He was a sergeant. I don't know if he still has that ranking. He may have been demoted from that title, unfortunately, but he was placed on leave and stripped of police duties, according to a local news organization here, WBEZ in Chicago. He blew the whistle on the death of Eric Lurry, who was in police custody. And CBS Chicago's, so according to CBS Chicago, he lost his badge and he's now been put on leave pending this criminal and internal investigation into what happened. They accuse him of gaining, quote, unauthorized access to a video that was being investigated by an outside agency. So again, we have, in the context of this show, a case that's very similar to some of these federal whistleblower cases that we've talked about, where someone is being accused, it seems, of violating the sanctity of an agency, releasing secret or confidential information that they should not have. Now, what is this video? What are we talking about? It's a snuff film. I actually watched it. I saw that Benjamin Crump, a very well-known attorney who's taken on a lot of these cases, he was involved with representing George Floyd's family and trying to pursue justice, and achieved. Ended up, I think, getting Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, to kick up the charges a notch to charge second-degree murder in those cases against the officer, Derek Chauvin. And so in this case, there's a video. It's awful. I'll just summarize what it is, basically, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about. These two officers, deputized warriors in the fight against drugs in the United States, had Eric Lurry in the backseat of a police vehicle. He seems like he's doped on something. He might have had drugs in his system. If anything, he's at least drowsy. I don't know what else he might have been suffering from, but he seemed a little bit sedated. And they open his mouth because in his mouth he's got, I think it was fentanyl or it was some kind of drug, but he's got drugs in his mouth and he won't open his mouth and let them remove the drugs. So what they do in this video is one of the officers takes their fingers and pinches his nose so he can't breathe. And Eric Lurry sits there for 45, 50 minutes, not able to breathe through his nostrils, and his mouth is still closed. And then suddenly, he's pretty much just frozen and limp. And the officer pulls the bag out of his mouth, and then Lurry falls limp over to the side in the vehicle, and the officers are now done fighting the war on drugs. They got their little baggie of substances out of his mouth. So now they can care about his well-being. And now they're like, oh, he's unconscious. And of course he is, because you plugged his nostrils and he's now dead and you killed him. And the video then ends. And so, it's a snuff film. There's a murder captured on camera. And this officer, Javier Esqueda, is a whistleblower who should not be getting the equivalent treatment that you normally get when you're trying to help officers survive prosecution for murdering someone. I mean, he's been placed on desk duty. That's often what we've seen cops get. Instead, he should get a promotion, or he should at least be lauded. We should see public officials thanking him for releasing this video. The fact that this investigation was ongoing is not good enough reason to keep it secret. In fact, it might be that he released the video because he wasn't sure that the investigation was going to result in charges against the officers or in accountability for what happened. So this is a important story. We'll continue to follow what happens to this officer who is clearly a whistleblower that deserves our support.